So I hope you recall what we discussed. So we had stopped at two methods, the difference between two methods, open session versus get current session. And as I said already, we are going to use hereafter get current session, but only after giving you the difference. So as stated here, if you call multiple times open session, your Hibernate is not going to check whether the session already exists or not, whether a session is existing currently bound to a particular thread or not, I mean current thread. It is simply going to create one. And such a session, unless until you close it explicitly, doesn't get auto-closed. Whereas in get current session, here, even if you say get current session consecutively for let's say 10 times, only for the first time the current session will be actually created, a blank new empty session. And for the remaining calls, it will return you the existing session reference. And the other advantage of using it that lesser code, after shifting from open session to get current session, which of the following you'll have to write? Try, catch, finally, all of above, none of above. In get current session, what is it which you'll have to write? Only the none of above. You will not have to write anything. Totally wrong. Here you will only have to write the try and catch. Finally will be gone, because whenever you complete the transaction, tx.commit or tx.rollback, the session is going to be automatically closed. So, like I said, I've already spent the first half in complete concepts. So now we are going to we're going to spend the remaining time in this thing. What is it? All hands on. Okay, so close this. I'll give you the instructions. Those who want to do it with me can do. Otherwise, same things, please revise in the lab, definitely. So let's add some SOPs. User MPL, open that. And here, after the begin transaction, you can actually do it here also, doesn't matter really. So add, let's create another, let's use that session 2. Here I'm into open session. So get factory dot open session. Okay. And here, easiest way I can check is session double equal to session 2. So anyone wants to tell me, what will it return? True or false? Focus. Here we are calling open session multiple times. So when I say session double equal to session 2, true or false? 100% false. Every time a new session is created. Okay. And how do I test it whether the session is opened, whether it is connected to the this thing, pulled out connection and all that? There are methods. So SOP is open. The method name itself is open. So here you say, I'm not using it for both. I just want to do it with one. So session dot is open. Check if session is still open. And I want to see whether it is connected with database connection. Means is it wrapping the database connection? So the method name is session dot is connected. Checks if session is internally currently connected with the underlying database. So anyone wants to guess? These are all is open means what? This thing Boolean API. So here, what is the expected answer here? True or false? Is it open? Simple question, simple answer. Of course, yes, true. And is it connected with the database? Answer is yes. So you will expect to see 2 truths. Okay. Now copy paste this line after commit. And tell me what is the expected answer for 2 questions, true or false. This is what is important. What do you expect to see after the transaction is committed here? Simple question, true or false? No answer. Both will be true. Absolutely correct. I wanted both answers because just now I said so many times, when you have opened the session using open session, it doesn't get auto closed. So if you try it afterwards, Now, what do you expect to see? Explicitly closing the session. What do you expect to see? True or false? Is it open? Is it connected? So here you expect to see false. Getting it? Try it out. Now don't have to this attach the debugger and all that. That part we have done. We have confirmed that transient pojos, when they become persistent, session.save, immediately the insert query is not fired. Hibernate performs the automatic dirty checking right at the time of commit, and there the DMLs are fired. Correct? So now you can go to register new user, run as Java application. We're just inserting one more record, that's it. So something else. Password, something. User role, customer, one admin I already got, and registration date. 12th month, 20. Now observe and conclude. I can always give you this. I don't think you require, but in case you don't want to like type out the details and more of typing, I don't want you to make mistakes. So here, when you say session double equal to session 2, are they referring to the same session object or different ones? Different ones. Open session does that. After the session is open and transaction is created, begun, is it connected to the underlying database? Yes. Is it open? Yes. Is it connected to the database? Yes again. Here the actual insert query will be fired on the database upon commit. But after committing, is the session still open? Very much yes. So when it is actually closed, only after explicit closing. So this is how we can confirm all these understandings within a minute. Are the observations clear? Are you getting the same ones? Okay. And you can check, of course, there will be now 3 records. Okay, so nothing great about it. Now you know session.save does it. So gone are the days where you have to do so many things in JDBC. Everything is abstracted, handled by what? Handled by your this thing, Hibernate. So now let's make a copy. So now I'm going to maintain a particular speed. Unfortunately, I'll not go super fast. I promise you that. But I can't actually wait for a revision because lot of time we spent in the revision. One full hour, 1+ hour today I had to spend in revision. So little faster, but not too fast. So open iUser now. So add a method to insert user details. This was done with a open session, which is the next API I have given you to other session factory method, get current session. So that is what we are going to do. Add a method to this using get current session. Okay, so that is the next one. So register user with get current session. Okay, wherever you need help, every now and then I'll be sharing this. So I can share this right away. Right now I did not do, Rajiv, anything. I just one. You still need it. We hardly did anything. Anyway, so just wait for a minute. I'll write this method also and then share the zip. Okay, so go to user implementation. And here, let me add the new method. So here, source, override implement method, the next method. And what is it going to change? What will be the change between, only change between earlier method and this method? We had written earlier open session. We will have which method now here? Get current session. Okay, so follow the instructions. Copy the whole code. I don't want you to waste time in things which we had already written and spent time. And paste it. Oh, last line I've not pasted. Okay, anyway. So paste the whole method. And we are going to discuss it. If you want, you can pause writing I'll send you the code in a minute. Anyway, Rajiv said send a zip. So the new method is register user with get current session. I'll tell you today's lab activity. Before I join, after I join and all, you will have a lot of things to revise. So how are you going to revise? You're just going to open the testers. I'm going to write separate testers, not in one class. Don't expect that. It is too much of an effort and definitely not worth it. So we will write separate testers. So you just have to go through the tester while revising, always go in a top-down manner, and you will be able to recall each and everything. Okay, so start. Open session or get current session here? Tell me. Of course, get current session. That is what we are going to replace. So replace it by get current session. Here also get current session. Okay, so now tell me. So this is the first time I'm calling the get current session. So at this point, tell me, is there any session bound to this current thread? Current thread is in your invoker main thread. Yes or no? Is any session existing? Of course not. So here, new session will be created. Are you getting me? And you are this thing. So new session object created with empty L1 cache. But now when I say the same thing second time, third time, fourth time, is it going to return, create a new session, or is it going to give you the existing session? 100% existing session. Okay, now, so start answering now. What do you expect to see? Session double equal to session true, session 2, true or false? True, because it is, we are talking about the same session object. Whether you say it once or twice or 10 times, it is going to return. Is the session open? Yes. Is it connected to the database? Very much yes. Got it? Next one. Now, when I say session.save user, no changes. Now tell me, important line. At this point, what do you expect to see? True, false, whatever. What do you expect to see? The output on line number 58. You have to give me two answers. TT, FF, TF, FT. All four. Come on. Only one I got as a correct answer. Guys, I've said this 20 times already. Here, when you say get current session is automatically closed on commit. It is closed on a transaction boundary, and transaction boundary is commit and the other one is rollback. So how can you give me such a wrong answer? Of course, false here. This is what is the meaning of the whole statement. So session which was opened via current session is auto closed on the boundary of a transaction, which is either commit or rollback. Here it is commit. Okay, next. If you get a runtime exception, here you will see it will get closed. Now, is finally block required or no longer required? Finally block is no longer required. So I'm still keeping it as it is, and 100% here you are going to see false. Or okay, why not? Let's not confuse you. Let's get rid of the code, reduce the code at least. So this is what we are going to continue. So the session which is opened via get current session is auto closed. I said it and still majority gave me a wrong answer. Only one or two gave me a correct answer. Of course, it is going to be automatically closed. So you'll see false here. And the connection also returns to the pool. Everything that here, L1 cache getting destroyed, all your persistent entities becoming detached, everything, whatever I said on session closing, here it is closed. So I'll mention it here, Hibernate performs, etc. Insert query, and I'll give you in writing. So add the comment here, session is automatically closed, leading to what? Or resulting in L1 cache destroyed. Whatever you had written the comment on session close, add it here. L1 cache is destroyed, meaning all the entities which were persistent have become detached, decoupled from the session. Then your what else happens? Database connection returns to the pool, to the connection pool. Pool, when I say pool means not a thread pool here, connection pool, and then the session is closed. Have I written everything? Yes. So in addition to automatic dirty checking, session is also implicitly closed. And once it is already closed, what is the need of writing finally? Absolutely not. So this is your method. I'll send you the whole zip. Now, don't waste time today at all in writing the tester. I don't want any fancy testers. So I don't want anyone giving me switch case while not exit. I'm not accepting it because you're wasting your time. Whole thing is going to be integrated in web application. So please, now make a copy of it, register new user with get. I'm writing in elaborate names. So the revision itself will give you the confidence or clarity, right? Get current session. Okay, so be fast in testing. Don't waste time. If you spend time in Pojos and DAO, it is warranted, it is justified. But if you waste your time in tester, it is not justified at all. So don't do that. Okay, and now only thing I have to change here is I'm going to call that method different method, register user with get current session. With simple things you can test and you can clarify. And when you run this, so let's say something rule registration amount, the registration date, something. Observe and conclude. Rest of the things are working as it is. So tell me, session double equal to session 2. Same session returned or different session object? Same. It's a proof of concept. The moment you say get current session followed by begin a transaction, is your session open? Yes. Is it connected to, is it wrapping that underlying database connection? Very much yes. But upon commit, you remember where I had put a SOP? What is it which is going to happen at commit? Other than automatic dirty checking, which resulted into your DUML insertion, your container means Hibernate. Hibernate has automatically closed the session, discarding, cleaning up or removing or destroying that L1 cache, and database connection returns to the pool. Are you seeing it? Majority are giving me wrong answer. So connection, I'm so sorry. The session is no longer open, automatically closed on the boundary of a transaction, and database connection is also gone. Understanding the output? Clear or not clear? Understood what mistake you are making? So let me give you the zip so far, so that anyone wants to join now can join. Yeah, send you this. Take a look at it. Whenever you import this, import it as file, import, click on Maven, existing Maven project. So it will get imported into workspace and edit the Hibernate configuration XML, change the database username and password. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, let's move on. So which is the part we had done so far was only create, C for create. So now we have a, we have to go to retrieval. Okay, so data retrieval. The next part I'm going to discuss is retrieval. So let me ask you a question in JDBC. I mean, how will you solve it in JDBC? So you tell me the JDBC solution. I'll give you the Hibernate solution. So we'll end up revising JDBC and learning Hibernate as always. Okay. So what I want is user supplies customer. Okay, customer admin, I don't care. User supplies the user ID. And if the user ID exists, you have to return the user details. Otherwise, null. There's nothing to return. So start answering. If we want to do it in a JDBC, what is the starting thing? Open connection. Driver manager. I'm repeating the whole steps. Driver manager dot get connection. Which is the statement will you use for this? ST, PST or CST? Prepared statement. Which query? Give me the query. You can write in short form, I can understand. No. Which query I said, Prashant? Which select query, which SQL I wanted to ask? Simple question. Executive query comes much later. Yes, yeah, select fine, but what? Selects are from users, not ID. Again, you did not hear me. Selects are from users where ID equal to question mark. How can you say Avinash ID equal to 2? User tells you that ID. Okay. Now, when you come, so this all we had to write in DAO constructor. We had to write the state, we had to write the constructor. Guys, I'm selling Hibernate to you today. So I have to tell you what you are gaining. Anyway, so then when the client sends you the user ID, then you call the bean, JSP Java bean, or your tester calls the Dowler method, CRUD method, and there you have to set the in parameter. Everyone remember setting in parameter? Yes or no? And then you call the execute query. So execute query returns your result set. What will you choose? If rst.next or while? Revision if rst.next, and if it returns you true, then you have to read the user details. Which user details I'm talking about, guys? These user details. For example, rst.getInt, get string, image we are not reading currently, but whatever. I mean, it would be get block. Anyway, so get string, etc. So all the things you have to read, you have to convert it into, I mean, call the result set API and do the job. And then, of course, you have to, I mean, results that we open in an auto-closable manner, so it gets closed. Everyone fully clear about this thing, JDBC? And what if I say none of it is required? You have already bootstrapped the Hibernate. You have a ready-made method of Hibernate session, get. So read that and we'll go to, then we'll try this out. Just a second. So here, I've already given you all the help files. One sec. Just open too many lists. So look for get method. Search for get and opening bracket, or otherwise you can see here there is also the example. Anyway, the whole thing you can read this. The scenario is different, but I mean the concept is the same. API is the same. This is a mistake. Earlier API we used to require the downcasting and all that. Now we don't. Anyway, let me start explaining by one. So which method we are going to use? Session API. I told you already. 90% you will end up using session API. What is it we are doing? Data retrieval by the primary key. Which is the primary key of our users table? User ID. So read this method. Generic or non-generic? G or NG? Of course, generic. When you start looking at T's and K's and V's, you know it is a generic method. So this is your whatever method modifier. Everyone knows the generic type fits between the return type and the method modifier. So session interface is not generic. So you had to describe, you had to tell compiler. So what is it going to return? T. But what is that T meaning? T is nothing but the type of the Pojo. So in our case, what is T going to be replaced by? Of course, user. What else, right? So now you have a method session.get, and I hope you remember the statement I had made very early in Java, java.io. Everywhere you come back to serialization, deserialization, and so many places, not everywhere, but okay, so many places. So observe what is happening internally here is nothing but a deserialization. How? You will understand later. So right now, just focus on the API. So what are the two arguments you are supplying? One is the java.lang.class. That is which class? I mean, you want to create a Pojo which belongs to which class? And the second argument is what is the serializable ID? So the two arguments are the type of the class to be loaded for a particular POJO, and the second argument is serializable ID. Just before the break, I told you, is it compulsory to make your POJOs implement serializable interface? Absolutely not. But the unique ID, the user ID, ID field, unique ID field has to be serializable. So once again, the proof. So the first argument is, okay, sorry, once I do this, then what it will return? Okay, before I say what it will return, can you guess when you say session.get, which is the SQL query your Hibernate internally will fire using JDBC? Of course, select. Guys, you are not learning anything new here. I mean, as far as database is concerned, only thing is, instead of you going all the way to the database, Hibernate abstracts our work. Does it easier. So you'll see all of that in a minute. So now, if the user ID is not found, user ID, customer ID, whatever primary key is not found, the method will return null. Simple, easy. But if the ID exists, what is it going to return? I have already highlighted. I told you, I want adjectives, not I. Interviewer wants adjectives from you. So you can't just say POJO reference, zero impression. But if you say persistent POJO reference, of course, people know that you have really studied it and you have really thought about it. So 100% you will get a persistent POJO reference if the ID is found. So let us first try it out, and then I'll get you back to that table and we'll talk about it more, the details about it. So there is a small requirement here. Before you call this method, before you call session.get, hear my question carefully. I'll try to speak in slow manner. I said, before you call session.get, something like user.class and user ID, where does this user POJO exist? I'll repeat the question. I'll give you options. Be patient. I said, before you call this session.get method, where does this user POJO exist? Your choices are in Java object heap, same choices. L1 cache, database, all of above, none of above, any of above, whatever. No responses. Now my question is over. Now you can start responding. Okay. Yes, you're right. Cache and heap is completely wrong. Guys, I said before I call session.get, there may be. I said maybe. Because you see, if the ID is not found, means it doesn't even exist in database. But if ID is found, that means there is a corresponding record in database. And now we are trying to fetch the data from the database, exactly result set and all that. And instead of you mapping the result set to user POJO, who is going to perform conversion of database information into POJO equivalent to deserialization? Hibernate or programmer? Answer is Hibernate. So that is what you are going to enjoy or experience in 2 minutes. So before that, here, what is the type of the ID we have chosen? Integer. Is integer serializable? Yes. So this fits is a relationship. And while giving, I can supply it as an int. Here into integer is fine. There is no null checking and all involved. So everything will work fine. You'll see. And something else, right? So how to pass this class? So you should understand this part very carefully. You remember, I have spent a lot of time. We have spent a lot of time in telling you what are the prerequisites of deserialization. Does anyone remember? Tell me. In core Java, I'm talking about. There are 2 things which a deserializer, object input stream, read object method requires. Any memory? Any bells ringing anywhere? What are the prerequisites of deserialization? In our java.io serialization, deserialization topic. There are two answers. I want 2 answers, not just one. No. Moment you are giving me your closest, but you are giving me only one answer. I said 2. Guys, what is it which is required for object creation? The state and the behavior. So the state was coming from the binary file, that .scr file, and the behavior in the .class file. Are you getting me? So both were the prerequisites of it. Same thing. Here, Hibernate is going to perform the deserialization. But the first step in deserialization is loading of the class. So that is what you are providing by supplying class type of reference. So which are the different ways to get access to this class? In the object, there is a method get class, but I don't have a POJO object, so I can't use it. There is a, where is that? Class.forName method. You remember we talked about in the first day of JDBC, this returns you the loaded class reference, but I said too much. There is a shortcut where you can just add a dot class as a literal, and that will load the class in the memory, which will return you the loaded class reference. So I'll repeat what I said towards the end last this, and we'll start writing. So you will supply the loaded class reference and the serializable ID. There are three triggers for three ways. Triggers is the wrong word. 3 ways to get the loaded class reference. One is dot class, one is class.forName, and one is, if you have an instance, just call a dot get class method. So I'm choosing the easiest one. So keep your focus on this. Let us write the API, and then I'll tell you what happens internally. So which requirement we are solving here? Retrieval, data retrieval. Okay, let's try. Let's check this. So now my POJOs are done, my utils are done. So only thing we'll keep writing is the DAO layer. Open DAO layer interface and add a method. Guys, keep today's entire project day 10.1 as an excellent reference, complete reference to your CRUD applications. Basic half of Hibernate is what I'm saying. So add a method to get user details. This is your R of retrieval from database. So anyone wants to tell me what will be the return type of this method? What goes in, what comes out? What is the input? What is the output? Return type. User, very right. Yeah, persistent POJO, but it won't be like you'll know what I'm saying. User. Currently, I was just expecting no adjective. I just expected the actual keyword this user. I can say get user details, fetch user details. It is actually find by primary key. It's a finder by primary key, but fine. And what goes in? Anyone wants to tell me the input? What is the input you are going to give? Input argument. What is it you are going to take from user is the user ID. So whether you say int or integer, auto-boxing can here happen. And no need of saying any throws class because all are the unchecked exceptions. Done so far? Right, added the method. Okay. So now this is going to be so repetitive. So now I'm right. Oh, sorry. I wanted to open the user DAO. So this whole boilerplate code, boilerplate itself means repetitive code. So I'm writing it for the last time. You also write it for the last time. We will copy it into a template. And hereafter, whenever I say, okay, do update, do delete, or do whatever, we'll use that template. So not now, next time. So follow the instructions fast. Override implement method. Do this. Got it? Now you will tell me. I'm saying it so many times during the day. So without opening any books, you will automatically memorize. So tell me the first step. What is the first step you always have in a DAO layer? Hibernate based DAO layer. Anyone? We've done it 2 times. This is the 3rd time we are doing it. Yes, please. Get session from session factory. Using which method? Open session or get current session? Get current session hereafter. Okay, so that is decided. So immediately write the code. Session is equal to get factory. That's your import static method. Dot get current session. Next one, begin a transaction. If you read Hibernate docs, it tells you always wrap the piece of code Hibernate interaction in a transaction. So transaction, import it all from org.hibernate. Sorry, begin transaction. After that, try catch finally or only try catch? Only try catch. You know, finally is no longer required. Try and catch all. And if all goes well, means if you reach the end of the try block, what does it mean? Transaction succeeded or failed? Succeeded. So end it with commit. So this type of a code, you will continue to write till I take you to the next step, which is Spring Hibernate integration after 3 days or whatever, whatever it is. Okay. So here my advice, copy this part. Okay. This is going to be the template code, which we will keep on copying till I show you Spring Hibernate. And Spring being so popular in the industry, for reducing the boilerplate code, you will see this reduces to 0. Okay, that is how I'm going to take you. So open some text editor, paste it there, so that next time you write, don't write from scratch, copy paste this and focus on only important APIs. Understood the code which is like repetitive code called as boilerplate code? Everyone clear so far? Okay, so keep it aside. I don't want you to waste time. Paste it in somewhere, keep it somewhere, so that next time we write something which is interesting, you don't have to waste time in writing so much of boring code, repetitive code. Okay, so now what is it we want to do here? Out of CRUD, here, retrieve the details. Retrieve user details. And which is the method we are going to use? We are going to use session API. And which is the method we are using? It's a generic method. So type declaration, returns T. T will be replaced globally by user. And the method name is get. And you have to supply. Hibernate doesn't know which class you want to instantiate, or database. Database result have to be mapped to which class instance. So you have to supply the class reference, loaded class reference, and all you have to supply is serializable unique ID. It includes in the throws class Hibernate exception, but you don't have to worry about it because it's a unchecked exception. Okay, so now if I declare a user variable here, it will be only accessible in the try. So go outside and declare user. Okay, so here okay, and here compare it with all these statements which you are writing, executing query and setting in parameters and all, versus this, everything done in one liner. So session.get. So T is nothing but the entity type, your whatever class Apojo type, and the serializable ID. So which is the easiest way to get access to the loaded class reference? Just add, say user, say dot, it will automatically give you the loaded class reference by adding the dot class. And then you have here user ID. But as you notice, it requires the serializable ID. And what you have passed is an int. So int to integer, which is the implicit operation your compiler does, autoboxing. And is integer serializable? Yes, integer is a class implementing serializable. So upcasting. So two operations are involved, implicit operations. So this all works fine. So here, you don't want to return null, you want to return the user here. So I'll wait for you, complete it. Tell me when you are done. completed writing, and I'll keep sending you. I mean, after one functionality is over, I will send you the required ones. Not that's if you don't require, that's just a download I'll send you, and maybe the tester. Okay, so we have done this. Let's just test it as it is, and then we'll observe and conclude more. So when I say write a tester, please don't write it from scratch. You can copy that register new user tester into get user details. These are the individual test cases. I don't want to see your core Java skill here. One big tester, not required. I mean, you're not going to do it. Don't waste your time on the wrong things. So give me the another one. You require here this thing, session factory, so that right in the beginning phase of the application, session factory is open, connection pool is ready, scanner is required. This part is the same. This statement also tells us that, okay, all is well. Next, here, you're not entering the user details. You're just going to take a user ID. Correct? And which is the method we are going to call here is DAO.get user details sc.nextend. Are we done here? One more, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So here I'm sending you the tester. Think of a tester as just a test case. I'll show you how to write a test case also today, maybe in the labs. Remind me, remind me that you are going to show writing the test cases, unit test cases, not the integration test case here. Unit test case, but in the lab session. Before I make my promise, do we have a SRC test? Yeah, it will be easy. So I'll send you this. I'll send you the DAO layer also. Anyone who is not completing it in fast manner, doesn't matter. Typing speed does not count. If you are understanding, I'm like more than good. So now let's run it. So how do you run it? Open this. Open the tester, get user details. There is a run button here. Always keep your eyes on the console. This is not like a server-side console. This is your desktop-based standalone application. But you can see all the things are done. What has triggered is in user constructor, the default constructor. You remember I told you Hibernate makes it mandatory to supply default constructor. That mapping entry in Hibernate configuration XML file. Hibernate is checking whether I can see that construct. I mean, I can see that object. So session factory all up and running. So suppose I give the user ID. Just check. There are a couple of records here. So you can give whatever user ID. So suppose if I say 2. Observe and conclude. Oh, first thing, is it working or not working? Is it fetching the data from the database? Is the transient property getting the value or null? Of course, null. Transient is skipped from serialization. I mean, skipped from persistence. So there is no record. There's no column as confirmed password. So of course, ignore that. But what is the query your Hibernate is firing on your behalf? Good old select query, nothing new. Whatever you were doing earlier, whole of this last week, is Hibernate taken over. And our experience, our coding becomes so small, just session.get. And you can get all the details. Try giving non-existing ID. I don't have a record by this. And tell me, what is it returning? Is it returning null correctly? So the API works fine. Understood what I said? Getting the same observations, guys? Yes or no? Okay. So now it is time to understand internals, but not like of course, theoretically has to be, but with the pictures and all. But more than that, I like to do it things with code. Has everyone reached here? Understanding wise, I'm not saying typing wise. Understanding wise, all of you are here. Now, let's check your understanding. Or okay, before I check your understanding, let me ask you pointed questions. Open the DAO layer and tell me, What is the state of user here? Is it transient? Is it persistent? Is it detached? So currently let me ask you. Transient it is. Transient means not a part of L1 cache, not associated with database. Yes, which one? Of course not. It has okay, so you say may or may not be having the record. So currently it is all null. So null means none of, not applicable. How can I say any of the state applicable? Any is not applicable. It is simply having the null value. So ignore that. Now I'm asking you a question here. After this method executes and if user is not equal to null, hear my question correctly. Suppose this user is not the null. Can you tell me in that case, what is the state of the user? This is a better question. Transient, persistent, detached, or okay, removed you don't know. So transient, persistent, detached, 100% persistent. I told you, it is either going to return you null if the record is not found or returning you persistent POJO reference. How? In 2 minutes. Okay. So now tell me, this transaction is committed. You know all the story. Anyone wants to tell me? Here, what will be the state of user? You know the choices: transient, persistent, or detached. Line number 90. 100% detached. Can anyone tell me at which line number it became detached? Give me the line number because you are all doing good. At which line number it became detached? 100% correct. When you perform commit, what is the first thing container? Container means Hibernate does. It does automatic dirty checking. But which is the what is it called? Method we are calling get. So is it a read-only transaction or is it a read-write transaction? Write transaction, what is it? Get is what? It's a read transaction, read only. In short, is there any change between the data which you left it, the state of the database and state of L1 cache? No change. So automatic dirty checking resulted into no change. So tell me, will container, I keep saying container, but what I mean is Hibernate. Will Hibernate, what do you say, fire any DMLs? Will it fire any DML, insert, update, delete? Of course not. There's nothing to be synchronized. So no DMLs. Correct? But here, the moment you say commit and you have opened the session using get current session, what will happen? It will call session closing automatically, which involves L1 cache destroyed. Right? Connection returns to the pool and then closes the session. Session is closed. And the moment L1 cache is destroyed, here, you know, all those entities. Currently, there's only one entity. Later, you can have multiple. What happens to the POJO where it has the corresponding record in the database, but decoupled, detached from this? Like you answered very correctly, it enters the detached state. So here, since it was null, I said not applicable. Actually, but there is a corresponding record, but user is null. So I did not waste your time in that. Here it is. If it is not null, 100% it is persistent. And here, because the L1 cache is closed, destroyed, it becomes detached. So this whole thing, open that help, which I have already shared with you. And open that diagram, POJO states. Focus on this persistent row. Which is important. So let us say this. We were using session.get. I'm showing you the get. So when you use session.get, are we going through transient to persistent transition? Absolutely not. Get is the object does not exist. User instance did not exist anywhere in the heap, neither in the cache nor in the heap, and does not exist to persistent transition. And you'll see the later other triggers. Currently, I'm talking in get. There is a get, there is a load, there is a JPQL. So tell me, listen to the question carefully. When you call session.get, when you say doesn't exist to persistent, Of course, it is part of L1 cache. Otherwise, how can it be persistent? But is it also the part of the database? Meaning, is there a corresponding record in the database? It's a yes or no. 100% yes. Otherwise, your get method would have returned you null. Okay. So this is one level understanding. And the other level understanding is you can open from this. So here, object does not exist. And we call session.get. Okay. So if you have given the ID which is present, in case of present ID, what it returns you is the persistent POJO reference. And here, when I say persistent, it is part of L1 cache 100%, but it also has the database identity. So I hope you are understanding both the branches. One earlier one was transient to persistent. So that persistent entity did not have the database record till you said commit. We checked it with the with what breakpoint and all. But when you say get, you are lifting the existing data from the database. Of course, there is a database presence. So there are two paths. One is transient to persistent. One is does not exist. Object does not exist in the heap at all, in Java world at all. And you are fetching it all the way and making it persistent. Tell me, does not exist to persistent as well as transient to persistent. Understanding or lost? Getting both the branches? You should be able to highlight the difference. And now something more. So follow this. Here, copy this line. Unless until you play with the code, you are not going to enjoy. You're not going to understand. Forget enjoy. You're not going to understand it. Okay. So just do it something like 2-3 times. Just copy paste it 2-3 times. Call that session.get method couple of times. And the question being asked is, if you supply the existing user ID, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever exists in your database, how many times select query will be fired? Choices are 1 time or 3 times. How many times select query will be fired in case user ID is present? 100% right. 1 time only. Why? One word answer. Why? Of course, caching. So this is my way of explaining or confirming the presence of a caching. So for the first time, I've written all of this in a flowchart, which I'll explain it in a minute. So here, anytime you say session.get, will your Hibernate blindly go to the database and fetch this? No. It will check, is there a corresponding entity for this particular user ID already in L1 cache? So what is the answer it will get here? Is the entity existing or not existing for the first time? Existing for the first time. Come on, guys. What a on one side you give me correct answer, so you make me happy, and then you give me a completely wrong answer. Hello, here, this line, there's nothing. So here, Hibernate inherently is a lazy framework. It has to give up the laziness and hit the database with a select query. Okay, so that is where you will see first select query, first and only select query. Okay, now the next time you say, is it going to lift the details from L1 cache or database? Simple question, simple answer. Of course, L1 cache. So every time Hibernate is going to look into entity level cache, L1 cache, session level cache, if it does not find, then it will fire the query. You got me? So this is it. And of course, the same thing will happen for the third time. Confirm. Best is confirmation. So that. This is what will tell you 100% in 100% clear manner. There is a level 1 cache which is being used by Hibernate. So suppose I say 3, anything. You give some existing ID and tell me, count. How many times the select query was fired? 1 time or 3 times? Exactly once. And I already explained the behavior. So now and you can see, it is calling the user constructor. Guys, this is nothing but classic deserialization. Only difference is in core Java, when you said in.read object input stream in.read object, your object input stream deserialization, deserializer was reconstructing the Java object from a binary state. Here, your Hibernate is reconstructing the Java object, later the object graph, by using the database record. So that's the only difference. So naturally, it has to create a call the constructor, and it requires default constructor then. Now I have a question. If I give the non-existing ID, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many times select query will be fired? 1 or 3? 5 times. I don't know from where that 5 came up. So I think it is a mistake. So 3 times is the correct answer, because all 3 times it is not going to find it in L1 cache. So Hibernate keeps hoping that, okay, next time I'll get it. So confirm instead of feeling lost. And as expected, you can see. What is it returning? Is it calling any user constructor? It cannot, because there is no state which is found out from that result set in the database. How can it do the deserialization, reconstruction? No. So next time you call, again it fires the select query, because it is not finding anything. L1 cache is all empty all over. And so will be this. And finally, I mean, we are printing the details anyway as null. Getting the same thing? Understanding 10%, 20%? Okay, so now the complete details. Open Hibernate internals whiteboard and look at the second half of the diagram, internals of session.get. Reached here? I have shared all the diagrams already. Okay, so start. Your user client, I mean the tester basically, later it can be JSP Java Bean, client has sent the request, and you are calling the layer above is calling the down layer method. So it is calling the method session.get. So before session.get, L1 cache is all empty. Everyone understands this? You can follow this flowchart. Session.get, user.class and user ID. So will Hibernate directly hit the database with the select query? Never. The whole idea about performance benefit, optimal performance, is thanks to caching. Okay, so Hibernate checks if the entity already exists in L1 cache. So what happened for the first session.get? Exists or does not exist? It did not exist, correct? So we come to the does not exist branch. So since it is a retrieval, which is the query we used to fire in our JDBC days, select query. Now Hibernate does the same. I told you, Hibernate uses internally JDBC. We are just getting abstracted. Abstracted in the sense you don't have to go to the JDBC level. Now you'll start understanding the object-oriented principle abstraction so much in a better manner. Anyway, so select start from users where ID equal to question mark. It will set that in parameter. You don't have to do anything, and it will get the result set. So there are two possibilities. Empty result set doesn't have any record because it is an invalid ID. Story over, get method returns null. Is this branch clear? There's no deserialization which can happen if there is no data in the database. But the story is interesting, gets more interesting in the yes branch, non-empty branch, because that is where the Hibernate is reconstructing your Java object by reading the information from the result set. So Hibernate performs the deserialization. How? So here, if you remember, you have already supplied, there's no jar and all required. You have already supplied to that session.get method user.class. So at that time, the JVM's class loader has done the class loading. So class is loaded. Now it has to create the instance. So for creating instance, which constructor your Hibernate will use? Default constructor. But when I say default, okay, how do you know what I'm telling you is bluffing or not? There is a SOP in user constructor. That is how you confirm. But when I say default constructor, it has got default initialized state. In short, empty Pojo. Is it representing the data from the database yet? When it calls the default constructor, is it filled with the database data? Absolutely not. Now comes the reason why you have to supply the setters. So your this thing, what is called Hibernate, internally calls all these setters. So set email, set password, set registration amount, etc. Now it uses some other technique called as internally reflection, but essentially you can think of it as that way. And now this populated Pojo, now the Pojo is populated with the database details. So here populated Pojo with the state lifted from database to result set, from result set to here. So you as a programmer, do you have to do this object to relational mapping as in rst.getInt? Do you have to say new user, rst.getInt, get boolean, get string? Absolutely not. Hibernate is doing it. Not yet over. Hibernate doesn't stop here. It creates that object in the heap and adds this Pojo reference to L1 cache. And guys, anytime the Pojo reference is added into L1 cache, to what state it comes to? Persistent. And at this point, such a Pojo which came from does not exist to persistent, there was a record. So that is why I have written in that table. So this Pojo, which transitions from does not exist to persistent, the state, there's a corresponding record in the database, plus it is part of L1 cache. The moment it is L1 cache, it is persistent. There is a mistake here. How could I write this? Wait a second, I'll correct it. I'll open it. We are not returning persistent Pojo. What is it we are returning to the color, guys? Is it a persistent Pojo or is it a detached Pojo? You understood me or you did not? I hope that's a mistake in my drawing. So here I said we are returning. The moment you say transaction.commit, you are not returning anything before committing the transaction. So what you are returning actually is a detached Pojo reference. So make a correction. Returns this. No, it doesn't work that way. So returns the. So I'll just add a line here. This is the wrong thing. So make a correction in your copy, or otherwise anyway I'll be uploading the thing. And then you are saying somewhere this thing, what is it? Transaction commit. And when you say transaction is committed, everyone knows. I'm talking about, I'm making an assumption. We have said get current session. So upon transaction commit, which is a boundary of transaction, here implies session is closed, right? So session is closed. And here, the moment session is closed, is the record from the database gone? Yes or no? Is the record from the database gone? Of course not. But is the entity decoupled, detached, disassociated from L1 cache? 100% yes. So you can say entity. When I say entity, Pojo, same. Model, same. So entity or that Pojo is detached, or I can say decoupled, disassociated, whatever English. Decoupled from L1 cache because there's no L1 cache, right? So what is the state of it? Indicating the state of user is detached, correct? And then I can say as the seventh thing, so the DAO layer returns a detached Pojo to the caller is the corrected statement. Otherwise, you read it sometime later in interview, this and all, and then you say, then you get confused that that what you think is not what I've written. So of course, when you commit the transaction, the entity becomes detached, and that detached Pojo, you are actually returning it to the caller. So tell me, is the concept, internals, code, and the observation, is it all matching? Is it making sense? Of course, I'm not at all saying that I say this and next minute you understand. You know the process. You have to sleep over it. I used to say this all the time. So you literally have to go through it. Please go through it properly in your lab session, and I'll be joining sooner or later, and you ask questions, or maybe tomorrow morning, whenever. So this was about your session.get. And I'm keeping this as it is, like with multiple. You play with valid user ID, invalid user ID, and observe and conclude. So we have covered now session.save, session.get. Time to move on. Any questions so far? Any specific urgent question? Like I would suggest you think over it first, and then we are anyway there. We are there till 1st of Feb at least. So you have a lot of time. Anyway, go over it, write down your queries. First, think it over with yourself, and then I am there to answer anytime. So let's go on to the next objective in the sequence. Replace and get user details. Yes. So the last objective which we did was we confirmed the presence of the L1 cache by invoking session.get multiple times. And everyone has observed by now that even if the user ID is present, if there is a valid record, the query, select query exactly gets fired exactly once. And I hope you have got some idea about 3 states. Transient mean the object exists only in Java heap, but it is not yet part of L1 cache and there is no corresponding record in the database. Open my table to get it. Persistent means 100% it is part of that reference, POJO reference, entity reference is part of L1 cache. But whether it has the corresponding record or not, that answer is depends. So if it is transient to persistent by session.save, the moment you call session.save, will the insert query be fired? No. So you can say confidently, you can tell the evaluator confidently that the transient to persistent transition, that persistent POJO gains the database identity, means insert query is fired upon commit. But suppose you go from does not exist, session.get basically. Then of course, if the in case of valid ID, it is lifting the data from the database and putting it in L1 cache. So that persistent POJO, both yes, part of L1 cache as well as part of database. And the moment session is closed, the associated persistence context is equal to L1 cache is all gone. But the record from the database you have not deleted. I have not yet talked about delete. Okay, so that is your detached state. Detached from database or detached from L1 cache? Detached from L1 cache. So I hope you got some idea. Of course, you have to see so many more methods to get a better feel. Okay, so this was the thing we did so far. Now, next objective. Very similar things we have this. This is also retrieval. So I want to display all user details. So I have a question for you. Can you solve this using session.get API? It's a Boolean question, yes or no. I want to display all user details in my database. Can you do it with session.get method? I got one answer, 2, 3. Okay, multiple guys. Answer is of course no. Get method works with what? Primary key. I don't know the primary keys of all the users, right? So 100% no. So let me start. You know obviously where it is leading. So how you would have everything I'm connecting it to JDBC. How you would have done it in this thing, JDBC, a query. So let's start from users table. Then you get prepare statement, execute query, result set, and while rst.next or if rst.next this time, while or if, while. And then you remember we had to create an empty list in form of list linked list vector. And then we had to populate it L1.add and new user, etc. Everyone understood everyone remembers what we did in JDBC. So now I'm giving you the solution in Hibernate. So are we going to use this native SQL query, which is database specific, or are we going to go for your object-oriented queries? SQL or HQL, JPQL, of course this. So when I say object-oriented query language, don't worry, it is not going to be hard at all. Just some adjustments. Here, I'm giving you typical things. So what is going to happen? If you have understood ORM, this should not take you more than 2 minutes to realize. Table name. What is table represented in my Java world? Pojo class. So table name in the query is going to be replaced by Pojo class. Case sensitive or insensitive? Case sensitive. Column names. So here I'm not using, I've said star, but I might use some columns. So column names will be replaced by what? Pojo property names in a completely case sensitive manner. So now I'm giving you, if you say no, I want to work in Hibernate, native Hibernate all the time, you have a HQL, but the more practice I'm going to give you in JPQL. So how does a HQL syntax look like? So you can drop that select keyword and you can directly say from. It is equivalent to select star from. And what will be coming after that? Table name or a Pojo class name? What will come after that? Pojo class name. So from user. You got that? But the disadvantage of HQL is the moment you shift from Hibernate to Kodo or IBatus to whatever, will your HQL syntax, Hibernate query language, will it work or will it not? Of course it won't. So starting from today till your Spring Data JPA, which is the kind of last topics, we will be using the JPQL. Okay. So here, this is what you will be using, or this is what I'll be spending time. So here you have different types of JPQL. You have update JPQL, delete JPQL, insert you don't require because you already have session.save. So this is a select. Everyone understands that, right? Now, like how we used to have, I mean, in this thing, you can have a table alias. For example, I can say select star from whatever users table u. So this used to be table alias. Now this is a Pojo alias. Compulsory or not? Not compulsory, but I'm giving you a simple syntax which we'll continue to use everywhere. So select u. U is going to be table, Pojo alias from user, and here you have to mention it. So here, okay, let me say this. This is a Pojo class. This is a reference of the Pojo. And when you say select u, it is equivalent to get all the entities. It is equivalent to select star. So let me mention, u is nothing but the Pojo alias. So let's take you step by step. So first step is replace SQL by either HQL, which I'm not going to use, by the JPQL. Understood the JPQL? The simple query. Later we will make joins and join fetch and whatever. So select u from user u. Here, of course, you can be replaced by anything. You know, there's nothing specific about it. So it's just an alias. So I won't do that, but the point is that. So this is your step 1. So here, this is what I've already mentioned. Now understand the steps and we'll do it. So I have written them all here, but I like to show you from the Java docs. So why don't we understand it from Hibernate docs? This is all Hibernate native API. So open Hibernate Java docs, please. And the entry point of Hibernate interaction with the session. So tell me, which are the methods of session? Only 2 methods. Which are the only 2 methods of the session you know already? Get and save. So now you are understanding the third one. The name is create query. So Control F, search for create a query. So here you will see so many as in so many overloaded methods. So criteria queries we are not doing here. So here look for create query, which has the query string and the resulting type. Click on that. It's again a generic method. So here, what it returns is the, I mean, T is the, generic type. It is returning you the query object. And what we are going to do is, or rather, what are the inputs you have to supply? It's a query string. So can you supply SQL, HQL or JPQL? Only it understands HQL as well as JPQL because Hibernate is JPA implementer, JPA compliant, and we stick to JPQL. Okay, so the first thing will be the query string. And this is the method we will use for select queries. The moment I say select query, what does a select query return upon execution? A result. And in JDBC, you are getting a result set which you had to process. Here, good news is the whole deserialization, which I explained with session.get, is going to happen. The reconstruction of objects is going to happen with Hibernate. So all you have to supply is what is the type of the result, as in which is the class which represents the result. So let me ask you, for our current requirement, what will be the query string? I am not talking in HQL, I'm talking in JPQL. Which JPQL? Select you from user you. And what will be the result type? Which class is going to be, what type of the class you'll have? User.class. And what is it going to return is the query object of type result. I'm so sorry, query object of type user. Got it so far? Now, okay, one more advantage I forgot to mention. I mean, I've written it somewhere, but did not mention. JDBC APIs do not support method chaining. Most of the APIs are returning whatever void and all that. But your Hibernate APIs do support method chaining. You'll see this in 2 minutes. So go slow. What is this create query returning? A query object. So click on that and see where we are. So earlier, yesterday, I showed you session factory, configuration, and transaction. Today, you are looking at query API. So this is your package, org Hibernate query, and the name of the interface itself is query. Is it a generic interface or non-generic interface? You can see it as a generic interface, R standing for result of the query. Okay. You can see it represents a HQL query or a, I mean, criteria we are not doing here, but yeah, it represents the HQL query. Now, in JDBC, as a result of execute query, we used to get a result set, which we had to process, do the conversion object to relational and add the list. So guys, great news. Look for a method, get result list. Of course, there are stream APIs, but impossible to cover both. So I'm discussing the, what is it called? Imperative style only, time. Anyway, so here, when I say get result list, tell me, look at it and tell me, what is it returning? Is it returning a result set object for us to process? No, it is not returning a result set. It is returning a list. So anyone wants to tell me, list of what? What is it returning? List of result types. But I want an adjective. Is it returning a result list of transient entities, persistent entities, detached, or whatever? Returns you the list of persistent entities. So guys, it fires the select query, whatever, that JPQL. Your Hibernate will convert it into select, proper database specific, gets the result set, processes the result set, does OR mapping or object to relational mapping, and gets you the list of entities, but those entity references are also added on the L1 cache. So here, that is why I must have written somewhere as an example. Yeah, I mean, you can open Hibernate Session API. I've taken a bookshop information, but that's okay. I mean, you can relate that much. Here, the method get result list returns you list of selected, because there could be a criteria there, persistent portions. So your steps will be reduced to one-liner, and you'll see this in a minute. So before I ask you to write, is the requirement clear? I just want to display the all user details using SQL, using JDBC or this thing, Hibernate, of course, Hibernate. Is requirement clear to all of you? Let's do it. And after that, once again, I'll ask you whether you are clear, or if not clear, of course, I'll repeat n number of times. So close everything. You tell me. For adding this requirement, any changes in database, change or no change? I ask you always. Database, change or no change? no change. Pojo layer, no change. Not DB utils, Hibernate utils, same, no change. DAO layer interface, you will have to add a method. Perfect. So open the DAO layer and add a method. Method means method declaration. What is to be done? Add a method to get all user details. It was one user to get user details. Okay, add this by primary key, by PK. And here it is, all user details. Anyone wants to tell me what will be the return type of our method? Java type, I'm saying. I'm not asking for the adjective, of course, list. Answer the next question. The generic type, what will be E replaced by? Easy question, user. Okay. And detached or persistent will take a call when we write the code. Don't answer me now. So get all user details. What will be the input you will pass here? What will be the input you will pass to this method? Nothing. Of course, nothing, because there's nothing. Later, I'll ask you a projection. I mean, I'll say that, okay, give me, not projection, sorry, the criteria, where clause and all. Currently not. So this is done. Save it. Immediately, you'll get a compiler error in user implementation, unimplemented method. So go to the end of the class and say here source override implement and generate the method. I'll wait here for a half a minute. Tell me when you're done. Got it? Now, guys, it is the time not to waste time in writing the same boilerplate code. Who wants to write 10,000 times? Because, okay, 100 times in like 3-4 days. Getting the session, beginning a transaction, committing, rollbacking, etc. So I hope you have copied it as a boilerplate code. Control A, Control C, I mean, copy paste. And add that. This is how we are going to solve the rest of the requirements. So, of course, if you want to give yourself practice, type it 1 or 2 times. I'll bet with you, I'll challenge, I mean, that is for the 3rd time onwards, you'll say, okay, enough writing this code. Let me focus on something important. So tell me, has everyone got the, this thing? What is it? Session using get current session? Begin the transaction? Try and catch? In catch, runtime exception. In case transaction is not equal to null, roll back the transaction. Rethrow the exception to the caller to indicate to the caller that something went off, something went wrong, and in the try, end is commit. This code is 100% clear to all of you, not just few of you. Okay, so now let's write it. So what is it I want is the list of user. So let's create a variable list of user, let's say users. And you know, Java compiler doesn't allow you any uninitialized access. So initialize to null. And let's write that so-called one-liner. Anyone wants to type the right-hand side. So, okay, one more thing I'll help you with. Let's identify the JPQL separately so that, you know, you'll not get mixed up. So JPQL, Java Persistence Query Language, is nothing but an objectified version of a SQL. It follows the basic SQL syntax. So you are having select. Later, I'll show you update delete. So select some alias from user. You can say select from user also. You can drop the alias. But later, anyway, we are going to require it. So I'm showing you this typical one. And now, yes, please. Anyone wants to give me the right-hand side? In one line, you are going to get the whole thing done, which took you otherwise so many lines in JDBC. Create query. Yeah, the first part is right. Yes, Anjumala, you are absolutely right. So let's do it together, guys. So some of you have already responded. Everything starts with a session. So what is it you want to say? Get or save? None. You want to create a query. So say create query. Which this thing you will choose? Choose something with query string and the result type, because it is a select type, select query, which is going to return you a result. So choose this. First argument is JPQL. And what is the result we are expecting? User, list of users. So the type, POJO type is user. You say user dot and you'll get a completion. So you are giving the Hibernate that this is the class whose instance will be created, whose instances will be created. And here directly you have get result list. And I hope you are appreciating Hibernate. Compare it with the efforts we had to take in JDBC and tell me, are you finding this whole technology interesting? Every technology, I mean, this is Java, so you have so many options. I mean, other technology, but I'm selling you Java or Hibernate to be precise. So now I can ask you, what does this users consist of? Of course, it is list of, now I want adjective, list of transient users, persistent users, or this thing users, detached, persistent. So what happens is exactly same as your session.get, but with session.get only one entity, one record, one row corresponds to one POJO. So only one was lifted. Here, multiple records represented by multiple persistent entities. So complete the statement, list of persistent entities. You can say entities, POJOs, whatever, same. But everyone knows the story. What is going to happen when you say commit? When you have said get current session, L1 cache is going to be closed. So don't say users. I mean, of course. So now tell me, what is it you are actually returning to the caller? Is it list of persistent POJOs or is it a list of detached POJOs? That's why I told you. So hold on. Of course, at that time, the session is all gone. Your L1 cache is gone, but the database records are not gone. This is just a select query. So 100% you are getting list of detached entities. Getting more and more clarity over the states. Understood it? The new addition was creating a query and executing query using one API, get result list. So if you just take a cursor, executes as the select query and returns the query result as a type list. Type means generic list. Done or not? Done? Yes, detached list of POJOs. Yes, absolutely. So now write a tester. And I say write a tester, copied from earlier. Get user details to get all user details maybe. So I hope you have copied. Here you don't require the scanner. Why? Because you're not taking anything from user. There's nothing. I know user ID, nothing taken. You don't require even this. You require DAO instance. This is all not required. And which is the method you're going to call is, you all know this, get all user details. It is returning your list. List is iterable. You have a higher order function for each. And you can simply say method reference. Okay. So here I'm saying list of users. Got it? Tester spend minimum amount of time. Your real focus should be on POJO and the DAO layer because those are important. Done this. So you are iterating over the list and printing out the contents. Run this. Always observe and conclude. First observation. Tell me, have you got the data? Got this? Okay. And you can see this, everything. That is why that show SQL equal to true and format SQL equal to true gives you this whole internals. Internals means the query. Got this? So select query has been fired. Can anyone tell me why the user default constructor has been called 4 times? In my case, simple question, simple answer. Why 4 times? Nothing primary key. There are 4 rows in my database, 4 records in my database. And what does an individual record correspond to? What does an individual row map to? One instance, one object. So again, the whole deserialization done by the container. So it creates it does the class loading, creates the objects, adds the references in the list as well as L1 cache, and gives you that. Of course, confirm, other than confirm password, other than transient fields, whole information you'll be able to lift. And because we are doing the session factory.close at the end, you are cleaning up the connection pool and returning it to the caller. Understanding all the observations, getting the same things. I mean, I don't know how many records you have, but whatever records you have, those many POJOs you will get. Done? Clear? A small question before giving you 10 minutes break. So you're going to think it over in the break time. So listen to the question here. You can pick up anything. Let's pick up the last one. Open the DAO layer. The last method which we wrote together was get all user details. I'm saying whatever I'm saying is applicable to the earlier one also. Get user details by find by primary key as well as this. So tell me, in both of these cases, what is it we are doing? CRUD, create, retrieve, update, delete. Which is the operation we are doing here? Retrieval. Everyone knows it. Which is the query which will get fired on the database? Select. So, technically speaking, are there any changes happening on the state of the database? Is there anything updates? Is there anything insert, update, delete happening? Of course not. So the question for the, I'm asking you a question and then I'm giving you a break. So what will happen if you comment tx.commit? So I'm not answering that. You also don't answer. Take your time, take your break. You understood the question? You just try it out and see whether let's see whether you can observe and conclude. So comment this because it's a read-only kind of a transaction. Why I require commit at all? And observe, and we'll resume in next 10 minutes. See you in 10. Welcome back. So I had given you a small task. Tell me, has anyone tried it? What happens in a read-only transaction, such as this one, get all the user details, or the earlier one, if you commit the commit, connection leak. Are you understanding, guys? I mean, he's already answered me a question. Let's do this. So you can do it in any case. So do it in the last one. So do that. Does it mean that you're not going to get the persistent POJOs and the converted, later the list of detached POJOs? Everything works fine. But you have a problem at the end. So comment this commit and observe and conclude. So rest of the things seem to be working exactly the same. It is a select query, so what can go wrong? But observe always. So I'll just click this and read it carefully. So here, it is trying to do this. It is trying to clean up the connection pool. And here, when you say connection leak detected, don't just stop there. It is telling you that there is a one, there should have been is, but okay, there is one unclosed connection upon shutting down the pool. Anyone wants to tell me why there is an unclosed connection? How do you explain this? Come on. Yes, connection has not returned to the pool. When does a connection return to the pool? Reverse engineering. I'm asking you reverse questions. The on comment. Are you understanding it? So either you say, we used to say session.close explicitly for your open session, but here the whole session is closed implicitly on commit. So even though it is a read-only transaction where you don't want to actually, make any changes in the underlying database, you still have to commit the transaction. Statement clear to all of you? Observation clear? Understood? Okay, so if you see such things like if you see this problem, you know what you have forgotten to add is somewhere the commit has been missing. That's why I told you keep a doubt template and all and do this. I mean, then it will work in a proper manner. So now let me take you ahead and again, what is it called? Emphasize the presence of your L1 cache. So please go to your download. I hope you have uncommented transaction commit and let's do something here. Okay, so I'll write something. I'm sure you will understand. So let's say something users dot for each. Tell me what is it I'm doing in line number 112. You know that much. Everyone knows that much of a lambda expression very well, higher order function and all that. What are we doing, guys? Answer that in the line number 112. Yeah, so what is it happening? Here, we are reducing the registration amount. It is like giving a discount. So here, later we will have that, but I just want to highlight that right here. So here, for all the users, I'm reducing the registration amount by, let's say, 50. Okay, 50 is just a number. Everyone understood this? So the question being asked is, or okay, so this is one thing. Okay, copy this, paste it here. Copy the same line after or rather before that return. Done that? I have a question. You're not supposed to run it. You're supposed to apply your brains and tell me. So have you called it twice, 2 times? One here, once here, and once here. Got me? Now, so the question being asked is, after you run this, what is the expected output? So I'll give you choices. The registration amount stays the same, option 1. Second option, registration amount for all the users. I said all, I never added a filter or anything. The registration amount reduces by 50. Third option, registration amount reduces by 100, none of above or whatever. I mean, okay. So remains the same. Are you saying remains the same? Wrong answer. Reduces by 100, wrong. Exactly, it will reduce by 50. Okay, so first confirm and we always conclude after that. Whole idea is persistence, whole idea is persistent state and all that. And then I'll make a very important statement in couple of minutes. So why don't you first try this out? So what we should do is, actually this is just a, I have combined looking at time, all this. So anyway, run this please, so that I don't have to really worry about it. Observe. It's so much into observation. So many things you learn by observation. So this was your original select query. Get result test. And can you see something here? Okay, so keep looking at it, whatever. But the point is, answers are in the database. And tell me, did your registration amount decrement at all? Yes or no? Yes. And by 50 or by 100? By 50 only. So now understand this together. Let's understand it together. So here, all answers are with the POJO states. So let me ask you, you have the answer in front of you. So at this point in time, what is this users containing? It is holding list of persistent POJOs. Agreed? Everyone gets it? So now in this line, if you want to give me a formal answer, what are we doing? So the formal answer is, you are updating, or here the state of which entities is getting changed. Persistent, detached or transient entities is getting modified. State of persistent POJOs, persistent entities is getting modified. Agreed so far with the comments? Understood the comments? In this line, we are modifying or editing or updating the state of persistent POJOs. With me, agreeing or not agreeing? Understood or not understood so far? Okay. And now, you know the golden statement, most important statement in entire Hibernate. Who performs what and when? You know the answer. Hibernate. You can add a, by the way, that whatever breakpoint and all, play with the code in the lab session. So Hibernate performs, tell me, what it performs? What is the key phrase? Automatic dirty checking. And as a result of automatic dirty checking, is it going to find any disparity? Disparity means difference between state of L1 cache and that of database? Yes or no? No, you are saying. No state has been changed. Which property has been changed? The registration amount property has been changed. So resulting into what it finds out, there is no new entities. Entities are lifted from the database. So how can it fire the insert query? So the state is modified. State is dirty. Dirty means modified this. And what will it fire? Insert which DML? You saw the answer already. Which query it will fire? Of course, update query is fired. To update query is fired to sync up, to synchronize the state of L1 cache with that of a database. So I'll give you those comments in a minute. You first focus on understanding. Okay, so that is the reason you saw upon commit. You can hold on in the sense you can put a breakpoint or you can add a system.in.read or something. So whatever. So till the time commit, nothing happens. You are making the changes locally. Okay, so local changes. There's nothing happening in the database. But at the time of commit, if you change the state of persistent entities, that means you are changing the state, and those state changes have to be incorporated, have to be propagated, have to be sent to the database as a result of automatic dirty checking. So update queries were fired. Now come to the next one. You tell me now, what is happening in this line? Of course, you are updating the state, but state of which POJOs? Detached POJOs or persistent POJOs? You are setting up or you are updating the state of the detached entities, detached POJOs, whatever. And is Hibernate, okay, when I say detached, are we still connected? Is it a part of L1 cache? Is it a part of persistence context? Of course not. Persistence context got over long back as in, uncommit. So even if Hibernate wants to, it cannot do this. So updating the state of this thing, detached POJOs, and anytime you change the state of the detached POJO, can it synchronize the state to the database? Since no session, which session I'm talking about? Of course, Hibernate session, no session, no cache, no persistence context or no L1 cache, Hibernate cannot basically sync up or sync up the changes done in the, cannot sync up the changes from, or I'll use a better verb, cannot propagate. Propagate means, send. Cannot propagate the changes to, or rather I'll say, to database. It's fine. Not too complex English. And that is what is the result you have observed. But if you observe carefully, now see this. I don't know whether you observed. Here it is showing you guys, check the registration amount. Here it is showing you -50 or -100. -100. Are you getting it? Because what you are sending back is a detached POJO. We have made the changes to the detached POJO, but is it carried forward? Is it carried? Is it propagated to the database? Of course not. So this is the main difference between persistent and detached. So make a mental note. In that there's a complete description here. I asked you to read it yesterday. The name of the document is Hibernate_help. And here I'm discussing the complete life cycle, POJO life cycle. Actually, I should not say persistent object life cycle. I can say entity, POJO, whatever. Entity life cycle. And I already talked about transient and all, so let me not waste your time. So here you can read, please read it sometime, earliest time. So persistent when L1 cache and can result. So all these things I've explained. Note, read this note carefully. Read it slowly. So whenever your POJO is in a persistent state, who is responsible for maintaining this balance, maintaining this synchronization between L1 cache and the database? Programmer or Hibernate? Hibernate. So it will be in synchronization with the matching record in the database. Means what? If you make any changes to the state of the persistent POJO, will the changes be reflected in the database? Will the changes be applied or propagated in the database? 100% yes, upon commit. So how do you answer this in a formal language? Who is going to perform what? You know that Hibernate will perform automatic dirty checking upon commit. So earlier when we said save, it resulted into insert. Now we were changing the state of the persistent POJO, so it resulted into update. Wait for some time, we'll talk about deletion as well. You'll see the delete query fired also. Okay, so that is the statement you need to remember, not remember, understand for persistent. But now, when you talk about detached state, read this. Understood what the statement is? The detached POJO, detached entity, is it associated with session as in L1 cache? No. But does it have the corresponding record, a row in the database table? 100% yes. So if you make any changes, if you make that property dirty, the dirty word doesn't apply here, but if you change the property of a detached POJO, will those changes be applied, reflected, propagated, synchronized in the database? You know the answer. Answer is no. You got that? So this is the main difference between persistent and transient. Whatever changes you make to the persistent POJO, they are carried forward, they are reflected in database. That is what is the meaning of persistent status. But for detached, changes are not carried over. And what are the three triggers? So this instead of doing it this way, I have got a better state transition diagram. So what are the three triggers in which persistent POJO will become detached? So I'm not talking about this too. I'll explain them in a minute, next minute. But can you tell me in which condition, when will your persistent entities become detached? You know all this upon commit. So guys, while answering in interviews, don't say just commit. You say, if you have opened the session using get current session and you say commit, the session is automatically closed. So what is a safe answer to give? When the session is closed. And then you elaborate further. For open session, you have to explicitly close the session. Whereas when you use get current session, it gets automatically closed, not only upon commit, on the commit. Understood the statements? The first trigger upon session closing. That's a trigger. But are there other methods also? Is there other API which can also make the what is it called? This thing. Persistent entities detached? Answer is yes. There are two session APIs. One is evict, one is clear. So please open the README Hibernate session API and search for Evict. Evict, the English meaning of evict is removal, revoking, eviction. Read this. So what are we looking at? We are looking at session API. The title of the README is itself Hibernate Session API, session interface methods. So what is the method name? Evict. What is the argument you are passing? Object reference. But I told you we need adjectives to understand Hibernate. So what type of a reference you will pass here? Transient, persistent, or detached? Of course, persistent. It is the persistent one, which is what you want to evict, remove from the L1 cache. So the moment you specify this, it detaches, it removes, it removes, revokes, whatever. Revokes is a different one. Evicts the particular, detaches the particular persistent reference from your L1 cache. And the moment you remove this instance, whatever changes you have done to the state of that, what is it called? Evicted entity, will it be carried forward? Will it be reflected in the database? Of course not. Because the moment you call evict, what will be the state of that persistent POJO? Persistent or detached, it will be P or D, of course detached. And you saw just now, the Hibernate cannot track the changes made to the detached entities. Okay, so that was your eviction. That was your evict method. But evict is for one entity, one persistent entity, or all the entities? Only for one. So again, an analogy. Can't resist. You remember notify versus notify all? Guys, this is the way to remind you that, okay, you have learned something like this earlier. So if you say notify, will it wake up? Will it unblock only one thread which is blocked on wait, or will it wake up all the threads? Only single thread. Whereas notify all is what? Unblocking trigger for all the threads which are blocked on a wait for a particular monitor. You know that, broadcasting. Likewise, clear is nothing but evict all. They could have called it as evict all. They did not call it. So clear is now read clear. Think of it as evict all. Okay, so read. When you say session.clear, what is it going to do? All the entities, when I say objects, I mean entities, all the persistent entities which are associated with the L1 cache become detached. So I hope you understood it. This was one entity eviction. This is evict all. But another popular question, what is the difference between clear and a close? So when you say clear, is the database connection which is pulled out, is it returning to the connection pool? Absolutely not. But what has happened is the L1 cache is not destroyed, but L1 cache is now empty or non-empty. After clear, what is the status of L1 cache? Empty or populated? Empty. Okay. So completely clears the session means clears the L1 cache, removes all, removes means evicts all the loaded instances, and whatever are the pending changes, dirty, update, delete, or whatever, those changes are cancelled. Okay, so you understood this. Evict evicts one single entity resulting from the transition from persistent to detached, and clear is like evict all the entities. But when you say close, you will say where we are saying close. Agreed. But in open session, we were saying close. Or in get current session, transaction.commit is internally closing the session. So whenever you are closing on session, whenever you say either transaction.commit or explicitly closing, of course, all entities become detached. So of course, L1 cache is cleared. It is destroyed also, and it also results into returning the connection, pulled out connection to the Closes the database connection means don't misinterpret my statement. Returns the connection to the pool. So tell me, clear versus close. Understanding it? What happens in clear? Which of the following happens in clear? L1 cache emptied, database connection returns to the pool, both or neither? Only the first one. And whereas close, both of above. That is, the entity level cache is also clear and the connection also returns to the pool. Okay. So, I mean, there is so much I've written. So flush, you don't need. Flush means what? Synchronizing the changes in the L1 cache to the database. So in throughout discussion, we will never call session.flush. But can you tell me, when is session getting flushed to the underlying database? On which line? On commit. Okay, so but if you want to do it before committing, in some rare cases and all, they have given you the method flush. Okay, so there are a lot of APIs. The important ones, it is all full readme. So but we will just talk about the required ones. So let's do something and confirm your understanding. Open your DAO layer, please. And here, obviously, like, okay, so let me say something. Okay, anyway, I was going to say something more complex, but let me be lazy. So here I'm saying session.clear. You are supposed to keep playing with the code, and I'm going to give you some exercise, definitely. Without exercises, you won't get the confidence. Okay, so I have said session.clear. So the same question. I think I've explained enough. So once you run this application, once you run this tester, what is it you expect to see in the database? No changes in registration amount, minus 50, minus 100. Of course, everyone gets it. That is the proof of concept. That is so easy. So it will cancel all those updates and keep the state. So if you want to mention this, after I say session.clear, what is the state of all the entities? Tell me. Transient, persistent, or detached? Of course, it is detached. And you know it so well. I mean, I hope you understood it so well that anytime you make the changes in the detached state, those changes are not carried forward. So when your Hibernate reaches the commit, I mean tx.commit, it finds that there is nothing in the L1 cache. So what it can synchronize? Nothing. Okay. So just take a look at say select star and all, and then run the code again and observe and conclude. So tell me, which query has been fired? Select or update, or both or neither? Of course, only select. That itself should tell you the clue, should give you the clue. So here, the state of entity could be saying anything. Ignore that. Real answer is in the database. So tell me, did the state change? Did this thing, what is it called, registration amount change or no change? Of course, it won't change. Got the same results and understood it? Understood it also? Did you understand the meaning of session.clear? Clear? Okay. And then you can try. I was going to say, you know, I'll tell you what I was thinking. So I was thinking of putting a for each and checking some condition and all that anyway, but that I can always give you as an exercise. So I've shown you clear. You can try your eviction. Let's go further. Okay, what I'll do is, before sharing code with you, I will comment all this. You can uncomment and play with the code. So once I comment this, you know, it is going to update the state exactly once when your entities are all what persistent. Okay, so you can go through this and you can get more. So now I'm just thinking, this we have done, this we have done. Okay, so now let us solve the next objective. Read this much. Okay. So you read the requirement. It's not tough at all. We have done so much, like so much more. So I want to display the user details. Is it all user details? No. Only those who have registered between a particular start date and end date and under a particular role. So the role currently I have just only two. It could be either customer or admin, but I'll take it from user. So what are the three inputs you will be taking from the tester or later from your HTTP request client form and all that? End date, begin date, and a role. So I've helped you partially already. So how you would have done it in SQL? SQL is no big deal at all. And no big deal because I'm not undermining SQL at all. It's such a powerful thing. The point is, it's a simple query. So select start from users where registration date is between, in parameters, in out, all represented by question marks, and user role is also question mark. So tell me, are you 100% clear so far? Okay. So now everyone knows what is this? It's a table name. How about this? Column name. And this is also, this has to be a column name. And these are your in parameters, placeholders. Still clear? Now, what if I want to say, do the same thing in JPQL? So here, what I'm showing you in short is passing the in parameters. If you check earlier things, we were saying select star and getting all the details. We were not giving any where clause. So now I'm showing you, I'm just taking you ahead and showing you how to pass the in parameters, how to inject the values and execute the query. Is the requirement totally clear? So let's start by converting SQL to its objectified version in form of your this thing JPQL. So initial part, select start from users is the same. Tell me the translation. Translate it into objects. So select. You can save alias or drop the alias. Let us keep the alias. Select you from. It will help you in understanding. Is everyone clear with the first part? Select you from user you. Yes, so you gave me that already. Where clause is the same. I'm telling you it is objectified SQL. So of course where clause. But now think and answer. Will you give the name of the column or will you give the POJO property name? Yes, absolutely correct. So now guys, you have used the alias. Why don't you use it? I mean, why don't you actually use KSET? So u dot, use a POJO reference. And when I say reg date, what is it? Column name or POJO property name? Everyone knows the answer. It is a POJO property name. Between clause is the same. And now another thing. So pause here. Does Hibernate support in parameters in the question mark syntax? Yes. But guys, the whole idea is to go object oriented. So here there is a concept of a named in parameters where you can supply the parameter name. And then I'll ask you, is question mark clearer or is the name parameter clearer? Don't answer me now. Give me time. So how do you replace? Let me say this slowly again, because otherwise you'll end up giving wrong answers somewhere to somebody. Does Hibernate support the question mark based placeholders? 100% yes. But is it a recommended or not recommended, since we are talking about ORMs and all that? Not recommended. So learn concept of a in parameter. I mean named in parameter. So it starts with a colon. Colon indicates the beginning of the in parameter and then you actually pass the parameter name. So here, suppose I say start date. So what is this taken as or what is it replacing? It is replacing your question mark. So instead of guessing what that question mark stands for, isn't it clearer? Isn't it better for readability, understanding purpose? Are you getting my point? So colon start date and is the same. And what is it? The end date. So again a colon which begins the named in parameter and I can say end date. Does it have to match to in role. So wait a second, whatever I mean, I don't remember the property name. Just open your user Pojo and look at it. So what will you supply? What will you supply here? User role. Are you getting this? Am I doing it correct? Yes, it is user role. Not here. Sequence. And user role. User role. Have I said correctly? You not originate this? Correct. User role equal to colon anything. So let me ask you before we start trying this out. I'll start asking you questions. What is it you will call it? Alias, Pojo reference or Pojo alias. Table name or a Pojo class name? Pojo class name. Column name or a property name? C or P. Column C, property P. Column, sorry, Pojo property name. And here, is it okay, you tell me what is it? Is it an in parameter? Yes. But is it a named in parameter? 100% because you have supplied a name to it. Makes query so readable. So this is your first in parameter. You don't have to count the position. This is your another named in parameter. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I mean, it doesn't matter really because there are no joining of the tables yet. And I don't have the same property name. Anyway, but let us stick to the syntax. U.user role. U, Pojo alias, user role, property name. And how about this colon RL? Is it a column name? Is it a property name? Or is it an in parameter name? It's a in parameter name, or you can say named in parameter. So this is what your query will be. So now so the initial part is the same. So we will say session.create query. And which query you will pass? This query you will pass. You got me? So it is full with all in parameters. Again, go back to JDBC and see and recall. If there were any question marks, what is it we had to do before we could execute the query? Set in parameters. But tell me, how many times I had to call this method set in parameters? Of course, 3 times. Could I do the method chaining? Answer is no. Because what was it returning? Void. And how can a void be chained? So good news is the Hibernate supports method chaining all over the place. So how do you pass the in parameters to the query? It's a query API. The method name itself is set parameter. Here in goes the parameter name. The other one, if you use question mark, there's a position based also. I'm showing you in parameter name and value. So it could be your date, it could be your enum role or whatever. And what is it returning? Is it returning any void? No. It is returning the query object itself, which you can chain for setting the next in parameter. So here, the whole thing means what? Creating the query, injecting, setting 3 in parameters, and executing the query is all going to happen in one line. And that is another advantage, the readability of the code or optimal code writing practices of Hibernate over JDBC. So let us solve this and let's see whether you get it at all. Okay, so this is what, have I given you the sequence? I don't think I've given you the sequence. Have I shared the sequence with you? Yes, the whole help I have shared. Okay, so you can open the whole help, day10 help contains the sequence. So I have shared this. This won't come, but we are going to write it together. So we are solving objective 12, where I'm showing you the concept of in parameters, named in parameters. So start in a bottoms up manner. Open the this thing, DAO interface. I user DAO. Add a method to get. Are we getting all user details? No, we are getting only some of them. Get selected user details. So similar thing. I'll say here the method name I'll change. Get selected by that criteria, selected user details. So you tell me, change or no change? Are you going to have any change in the return type? Take your time and answer. I need the answer from you. I'm not answering. Zero changes. Input. Any inputs required or no inputs required? Of course required. How many inputs? All three. Otherwise, how will you work it out? Okay, so what is it we are having is a local date, right? You can do the conversion anywhere. So I can say, you remember we have a local date. So I'm saying there's an option. Either you parse in the tester from string to date, or you can do it in the down layer. I'm doing it in the tester the moment I say this. So I'll say begin date. Purposefully, I'm using the different variable names. You'll know why. The whole idea is to make you clear. End date. And then I have got a user role. What is the name of the enum? Role or user role? I forgot. Name of the enum is role, yeah. When you say control space, take it from Pojos. Okay, I'll send you this in case you need. So just add the method declaration. Done? Let me know. I've given you the method declaration, so if you don't want to type it, it's fine. Absolutely fine. Others, where are others? Just a method declaration I'm saying. Okay. So now naturally the next step is implementation. So go to user.implementation, implementation, go towards the end and source override implement. Done this much? Next, copy the template so that you don't waste unnecessary time on the things which are hopefully clear. You can always revise it fully in the lab session, getting the session, beginning the transaction, commit, roll back and read through. You tell me when you reach here. So then we can start in an interactive manner and then stop maybe. Finished? Done? Okay. So now identify the JPQL. Okay, let's do the what do you say? Basic work. So I'm creating this. Oh, users null. And before we forget, return this users here. And more importantly, JPQL. Not copying it from there so that you know you have the whole idea. So while writing the JPQL, what is it I should refer to? Table details or Pojo details? T or P? Table or Pojo? Of course, Pojo. So please, to avoid yourself heartache, exceptions. So please open Pojo so that you know you'll not mess up in the property names and all that. So here, start. So basic thing is already clear. I hope select you from user U, which is exactly equivalent to select star from users table. So this is our starting point. If I make a spelling mistake, shout. Where clause is the same. Now you are looking in the range, right? So U dot, the property name is RAG date, but I'm just confirming twice. At the end of the day, I don't want to like mess up. So where is that registration date? Registration date. So here U dot REG date between two in parameters. And since I can say question mark and it will work, but I just want to show you the new one. So here comes the first named in parameter. It doesn't have to match anything so far. So something start, anything, or okay, better name, start date. So I'm just trying to increase the clarity, nothing else. So between this and colon is for beginning of that named in parameter, end date. And we have one more criteria. And what? The, oh, No, I thought maybe I messed up. U dot originate, fine. And U dot, look at the property name. Property name is user role. U dot user role equal to, now this is not between, equal to colon something, anything. So check if the JPQL is clear. Hopefully I have not made any mistakes. Sent you the JPQL. Understood the what do you say, shift from SQL to database independent, persistence provider independent, objectified query language. That's your JPQL. Done. So now the whole thing, setting in parameters, execution of the query, and getting the list of persistent POJOs is going to happen in one liner, thanks to that method chaining approach. So start. Initial part you already know. Everything starts with session, which is the method to create the query object. Method name itself is what? Create a query. Okay. And since it is a select query, choose the one with a result type. So choose select this thing, query string and result type. Tomorrow or maybe today in the lab session, maybe I'll just take after 5:15, whenever you are ready. No problem, no pressure. So I can show you about update delete also. Anyway, so this is your select query. So choose that. JPQL we have already given. What should be the second argument? The result type. So what is going to be our result type here? What are you going to get? A user. So here, supply out. The type of the class, the type of the entity, POJO class basically. So user.class. And now tell me, are we ready to execute the query using getResultDist or not yet ready? Answer is 100% not yet ready, where you have set the in parameters. So now see this, it is returning you the query object, org hibernate query.query. And here you have a method. Which method we have? Set parameter. You can see so many overloaded ones. So if you go by that question mark, I told you the question mark position also works. Only changes, I'm not sure 100% because I don't use question mark. You figure it out. Whether it starts with 0, I think it starts with 0 because it is all object oriented. I'll say this slowly. You try it out in lab and tell me by the time I return if you want. This position I feel starts with 0 onwards, not like your database, but I'm not 100% sure at all. I hardly use it. So the one which we are going to use is the named in parameter. Bind an argument value to a named parameter, which is what is fully recommended. And now do we have to match anything, or can I give any arbitrary parameter name? Of course not. So how do you specify the parameter name? Remove the colon and whatever remains is the parameter name. Please copy paste, don't try your spellings. And what is the value we want to inject is begin date. So here is the value binding, argument value is bound to the named in parameter, but we are not done. So can I continue in the same manner? 100% yes, because the set parameter method returns me the query object with first parameter bound. So I think you can continue. So set parameter again. Now we are binding the second in parameter, named in parameter, same. Well, I'll just put it on different lines so you can see it and understand it also. So what is the name of that second in parameter? I can put it in any sequence, by the way. Again, standard thing, not to confuse yourself, follow the sequence. And that is your end date. Are you understanding what has to match with what? Only the in parameter names you match. And then I have the last parameter to set. Oh, this thing is set parameter again. And same thing. The name of the parameter is, I'll just check here, role, I guess. Yeah, whatever. Anything. So this is your name. So of course, string. And here you are supplying, user is supplying you the user role, enum. So have you set all three named in parameters? Yes. Are we ready to execute the query? 100% yes. And the great part, you don't have to really, call execute query, process the results. Everything will be done by Hibernate. So guys, definitely recall how many lines it was taking us. It's not just a lines, it's just a practice, the way you work with. So you check, even this line I can embed here just in a query, and literally the whole processing, whole execution, including setting in parameters, happens in one liner. I'll give you this looking at time, provided I have not messed up. Got something? Understood things? We're just testing it now and we're stopping here right away. So again, the same thing. What is it here? I've got list of persistent entities. And upon commit, because the session is auto closed, here you are returning list of selected detached entities because I've gone for the criteria, where class to the caller. So now in the next minute, let's test it. So here, copy, get all user details into get selected user details. I'll send you the tester in a minute if you don't want to type it, because this is not important. The important part is done. The DAO layer, JPQL, and in parameters are already done. Will I require a scanner here? Yes, of course. Otherwise, how will I take the inputs from user? You can focus only on understanding. Leave typing, no problem. And here, I have to take the inputs. Enter what? Start date, end date, and the rule. And then I can say this here. I just have to call the method here. So here, what is it we are having is get selected users, local date. So let's do the parsing. Okay. Anyway, I was going to say import static, forget it. Parse sc.next. That is your begin date parsed. Parse the end date also, and parse the enum also, which is rule dot value of sc.next dot to uppercase. Okay. And since I am going to get a list, let me attach a for each to it and display. Okay. List of selected users. Of course, if you give the some criteria which doesn't exist, it's going to like return you the empty list. So yeah, I was going to send you this so we can test this together and call it a day. I'll send you the DAO layer also. I'll send you user DAO implementation plus sending the tester, which you don't have to actually type. What was it? Get selected user details. So now I don't know what data you have got. So I'll check. I've got a lot of customers. Only Rama is admin. So I'll check that. And so customer role I'm going to give so I can see something. And the registration date, I'll give something between after 2015. So maybe I'll get Sam and I'll get Ria, right? Who's the admin? Yeah, I'll get this. Something. You pick up the data and give the filter. So here, this comes first, but I'll end it here. So 2015, year, month, and day. So maybe end of year, 31st December, 2022 maybe. And the role, customer. Okay. And the rest of the things I don't think I have to explain. This is your JPQL translated into your SQL. Almost all the things are the same. Only thing is the table names replaced by Pojo classes, properties, etc. You have this where class where you have got the date between these two and user role. Since it could fit on, it could find only the matching to this, it has lifted those details and done the job. So tell me, you're stopping here, but is it working for you? Give some values which are matching in your data. I don't know what data you're having in the database. So give the filter correctly and you should see the result. And if you're using the same similar data like this, I can give you this data also for testing. Worked or not? Got the selected users? Good. So this is, I mean, I wanted to cover more as always, but okay, this is fine. So I'm stopping here right away. Please revise. You follow the instructions from that Advanced Java Lab instructions, right? Do complete revision. Spend maximum time on the fact which you have not understood. And by the time when I join, you keep your answer questions already. So I'll revise whatever you want. And then of course I'll give you some things to work on. That will be all. See you in the labs.
हेलो गिरीश अरे बोल के